Hi everyone, this is Silvika Raska. Welcome to this session on the Online Business Accelerator Summit. And in this session, we are going to talk about the subtle art of leadership. Now, why leadership? Who am I? Why should I be talking about it? Real quick intro, and then we'll dive right in. So I'm a leadership coach. For the past 15 years. I've worked in leadership in either nonprofit organizations or in corporate America. And I'm bringing you all of the lessons learned that I've had from all those different experiences. And also, more importantly, the reason why I want to talk about the subtle art of leadership is because there are so many leadership lessons that are not taught in the formal leadership training, and I think they are the ones that make the biggest difference. Now, why leadership? Well, because as business owners, you are the leader of your business. You are the leader of your life, you're the leader of your business, and you represent your business, you represent your brand. And when you're talking to, be it customers, be it clients, be it other team members, contractors, employees, whatever it might be, or potential investors, you need to portray yourself. You want to portray yourself as an authoritative, confident leader. Now, another reason why leadership and why it's so important to talk about leadership is because studies over and over again have shown that the biggest factor in whether a business succeeds or fails is leadership. In fact, Jim Collins, in his seminal work on Good to Great, he and his team, what they did is they studied hundreds of companies, and they looked at what caused the companies that were, they were good, they were average, they were doing all right. What caused them to go from to bam, great, amazing companies? And his findings, they found the biggest factor were the leaders. That was the absolute biggest factor. Great companies had great leaders. So, if great companies have great leaders and you want your company, you want your business to be great, to be successful, and you want to take it to the next level, then guess what? You need to invest in yourself and be a great leader. One of my mentors told me that so many people want to have more. They want to have more sales. They want to have more impact in their business. They want to have more profit, but they are not willing to be more. So, I want you guys to not only have more, I want you guys to be more, because by being more, by being better leaders, by being greater leaders, you are setting yourself up and you are setting your company up for much more greater success, and you're getting ready to take it to that next level. That is how you get to that next level. And that's why there's such a big difference between companies that make, maybe 5 digits, 6 digits, 7, 8, all those different digits of figures per year. You look at their leaders. So when we look at leadership, what is leadership? A leader is someone who brings people onto their platform. They have a vision. So you have a vision for your business. You have a vision of where you want to take things. Leaders have this vision, and they communicate that vision to other people and get those people to come onto their platform, to get onto their platform and propel them towards that vision, towards that goal. That could be you get a team members. It could be that you're your board of directors, that you're getting them onto your platform. Or it could be you're hiring employees or getting contractors, you're putting a team of contractors together. Or it could be your clients, right? Your clients are the people you're propelling onto your platform, and persuading them to buy into your vision, to buy your product, buy your service. That's what a leader does. And the number one factor for leaders, the number one thing that leaders need to be able to do effectively is communication. So, real quick, let's back it up. Why am I focusing leadership and communication? Let me explain that real quick. In the late 1800s, the late 1800s, early 1900s, there's an economist called Pareto, and Wilfred Pareto. And what he did is he discovered what is now known as the 80-20 principle. He studied all of the countries in Europe, and he noticed something funny. He noticed that for all of the countries in Europe, 20% of the people owned about 80% of the wealth. And this was true for each country, and it was true regardless if it was war or if it was times of peace. So he discovered this, didn't make much of it. Fast forward 50 years, and then Juran, a Romanian-American engineer, rediscovered this principle. And what he did, though, is he made a direct connection and correlation between that principle and discovered what is called, and communicated in a manner that is called the rule of the vital few. So what he discovered is that for him, it was specifically in quality control and in manufacturing, etc. He noticed that a small portion of inputs cause the biggest amount of problems. And so he was able to then launch basically the quality revolution in Japan, and then it rolled over here in the United States as well. And from there, it's been expanded. Software companies use it all the time. But it's basically, when you boil it down, it's a small fraction of your inputs cause the biggest amount of your output. And when it comes to leadership, so basically, let me finish that thought. So that small portion of your inputs that cause the biggest amount of your output, if you want to make the most drastic improvements and increases, you find what's that 20%. What's that small percent that's driving your profit? Or what's that small percent that's causing the problem so you can fix it, right? In leadership, the biggest and most impactful area of leadership is communication, because leaders communicate. Leaders need to be able to communicate to people to bring them onto your platform. You communicate to win clients. You communicate to win over investors. You communicate to your team members to win them over to work towards your goals. So if we want to get super serious and really bam, straight to the point of how we can improve our leadership and the subtle art of leadership, what we do is we 80-20 this baby, and we focus on communication. That's 80-20. And now let's pack it on further. When we talk about communication, how can we focus on the specific aspects of communication that will have the most impact to you? We have half an hour, right? And time is running out. So what can I do? What information can we zero in on that will have the biggest impact on you? Well, here it is. Communication. When you look at how we communicate, 7% of our communication are the words that we speak. Only 7%. 38% is the tone of our voice. And 55% of our communication is our body language. 55% of your communication is body language. So therefore, just following the reasoning, right? If, as a leader, your biggest, the part that makes the biggest importance for you as a leader is your communication, and the biggest portion, the biggest factor of communication is body language, that is what I want to jump into. I want to jump into the subtle art of leadership and the subtle art of influence when it comes to body language. I'm going to give you some tips, and as you go through these tips and start applying them, you will notice a visible difference in you when you communicate with your team members, when you communicate with clients, when you communicate with investors, potential partners, whatever it might be. All right, are you ready? Are you ready? All right, get out your notes. Make sure you have a notepad or paper, or maybe type something ready to type up notes, because I'm going to go through, I'm going to be throwing out information, and then it'll be great information you can apply already. Boom, tomorrow, today, whenever. Okay, so part one. So we'll go into 3 parts. We'll do hand gestures, body language, and then super secret sleuth trick. All right, so hand gestures. Our hands communicate so much. Our hands say a lot more information than we realize that they say. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you, there's this study. Okay, hold on, let me really quickly explain. Hand gestures, why it's important. There was a study that was done on hand gestures and the ability to persuade people. And so they had a speaker give the same presentation, exact same presentation. The only thing he did different is his hand gestures throughout the presentation. And he gave it to 3 different audiences, but each audience was a very similar audience. And there was a drastic difference in how well his message was remembered, how well people listened, remembered, and then acted upon what he said. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you really quick, because when you see it, you'll understand it much better. All right, so I'm going to tell you the same message 3 times. And each time when I say it, I want you to think about, how did this make you feel? Okay, so I'm going to step back so that way you can see my hands better. All right, everyone in the room, for those of you guys who are here on the right-hand side, I want you to move over to the left, and the people on the left, go ahead and move over to the right, and the people in the back, come move forward. All right, thank you. All right, that's number one. Now, watch again. All right, everyone in the room, for those of you guys, I want you guys to move around. The ones on the right, I want you to move to the left. The ones on the left, I want you to move to the right. And those in the back, I want you to move forward. Thank you. Now, how did you feel? And the third one. All right, everyone, I'm going to want you guys to move around. For those of you guys to the right, move to the left. Those of you guys to the left, move to the right. And those of you guys in the back, come on over here and move forward. How did that make you feel? Think about it. Just really just sit down and think. And I tried as much as possible to keep my tone the same and my facial expressions the same. But you'll notice I didn't 100% succeed because it's really hard. Because the gestures we make, that's point number one. The gestures, the hand gestures we make, you guys, affect the tone of our voice. Remember, 55% of your communication is body language, 38% is your tone, and your body language affects your tone of voice as well. So that's like affecting 93% of your message, 93% of your communication. So how did you guys feel when I had my hands? I'll tell you the results from the study. So basically what they've found is if you use hand gestures like this, palms up or like at a 45-degree angle, it's very open. It's very trustworthy. It's very inviting. It brings people in. And when they did the study with the speaker, they found that the speaker, when he used his hand gestures like this, people were more likely to listen. They're more likely to remember, retain what he had said, and they were more likely to purchase the product that he was selling. Now, for you as a leader, you as in business, as a leader, you are selling yourself, you are selling your services, you are selling your products, whatever it might be. And a simple thing as your gestures, palm up or palm like 45 degree towards up, makes a drastic impact on how well people listen to you and how well people are to act upon what you have said. Subtle art of leadership that people don't talk about. I worked in corporate America for 10 years, and this hand gestures was never talked about. I learned because I observed. Within 2 weeks on the job, I had the opportunity, well, part of my regular job was to interact with the executives on a nearly daily basis for a Fortune 200 company, and I observed. When I walked into the boardroom, I looked at what everyone else was doing, and I observed their hand gestures. It's never stated outright, but your hand gesture impacts how well people receive your message. Now, when I had my hands like this, when I was saying here, 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 right? How did you feel then? See, this, in the study, they found that people they felt sort of like they were being bossed around. They were feeling like they were being told what to do. You know, sort of like, I don't know if I really want to do that. Oh, really? You're going to tell me? Maybe I don't want to do that just because you told me to. This right here is much more authoritative and assertive. It is very firm. This says leadership. Sometimes, right? This says authority. I'm firm. I know it. I'm the boss. I got this. That's what that gesture says. If you're trying to convince someone and persuade someone, though, and sell someone something, this is not the best option. This is more of a, if someone is speaking and you want to assert your authority without, being right? You don't want to be bossy, right? Or you don't want to be abrasive. You could just say, I've made up my mind. I've made up my mind. And that's it. And just the simple fact that you're putting your hand like this adds a tone of authority to it and a feel of authority to it without you even saying anything. I mean, you're saying I've made up your mind, right? But you're not saying, listen to me, I have authority, and this is me acting within my leadership ability. You're not verbalizing that. You're just doing it with your hand, and it has that impact. If you've looked, especially when it comes to in times of war or when presidents speak and they give things with authority, boom, boom, they'll be using this. By the way, the open hands, President Obama, if you guys noticed, whenever he was campaigning, this is what he spoke. Hugs, open, open, come into my platform. And he's a very charismatic and very eloquent speaker. He used his hand gestures wisely. This, once again, remember, is much more firm. Now, the finger pointing one, a lot of people use their fingers to point. In some cultures, by the way, it's very offensive. And in all cultures, the studies have shown when you point, it feels very demanding. It feels very bossy, very pushy. all these negative connotative words, right? And people are just like, they're like antennas go up. They're like, I don't want to do this, goes up. This is very, very authoritative. This is usually accustomed to military, very strict type thing. I mean, when someone points their finger at you, don't you feel like you're in trouble? Like it's your parents nagging their fingers at you? So keep that in mind when you're pointing. One of the things that I found in my experience, when especially in the boardroom, is the people who were pointing more often, they were the people who tended to be most insecure about their authority and about their power. The leaders, the ones who are very secure about their power, they would talk like this. They would provide their inputs, and then when they wanted to table the discussion, move on to the next thing, said, okay, next topic. Very easy, right? The people who just didn't feel confident in their leadership, they were the ones who were doing all the pointing. So, gestures, your hand gestures are very important, and your hand gestures make a big difference in how you portray your authority, how your authority is perceived, how your leadership is perceived. So if you want to be the leader that influences and moves people onto a platform, subtle art of leadership and influence, palms up. If you want to show your authority, but without having to say it, if you want people just to understand, this is my decision, this is firm, this is me, boom, palms down. And pointing, in very rare cases, if there's a fire, you say, get out there, let's go. But in any other case, don't, right? So that's number one, gestures. Now, the second portion of the next part of body language is the rest of your body. How are you positioned? How are you sitting? How are you standing? All of that has an impact on how you are perceived as a leader. Not only does it have an impact on how you are perceived, it actually has a physical impact in your brain. And it's your body posture sends different signals to your brain on which hormones and which chemicals to produce inside your brain. Right? Astounding, right? So here, Amy Cuddy and her team at Harvard, they did intensive research on body posture. And they looked at the impact of body posture when you go to interviewing, etc. They ran multiple studies. And what they've identified is poses that are considered high power poses and poses that are considered low power poses. They tested out multiple times, people in high power poses, people in lower power poses, and they found nearly unanimously, people who assume high power poses come across as more confident, more authoritative, and are more likely to sell themselves better. And once again, as a business owner, as a leader, you are constantly selling yourself, right? Selling yourself to your team, selling yourself to yourself, let's be honest, some days, right? Selling yourself to your clients and your customers, selling yourself to your investors and your partners. What does your body language say about you? How are you presenting yourself? So, high power poses. Let's talk about high power poses. They've identified, so basically high power poses, what they do, first I'll tell you what they physically do to your brain. High power poses to other people signify confidence. They exude confidence and authority. In your brain, what it does, high power poses, if you may keep them for 2 to 3 minutes at least, they actually trigger your brain to start producing more testosterone. And that is linked to confidence. How would you like to be able to have a biohack, basically? It's a complete biohack where you're training your brain and you're getting your brain to produce testosterone, and then you're portraying confidence and authority to others without even saying a word. That's what this is. So, the high power poses. The first one is the superwoman. It's where you have your feet, you can't see my feet, but feet like shoulder or hip or shoulder width apart, and your hands on your hips, boom. Power like Wonder Woman, Superwoman, right? Very strong, very assertive, chest up, shoulders back, right? That is one of the power poses. You hold on to that power pose for about 2 to 3 minutes, and guess what? Your brain will start producing testosterone. That power pose also shows everybody that you are in charge. Now that power pose might seem very overt, very in your face, but there are other power poses you can do. When you are sitting down at a desk, right? Hands behind your head, that's a power pose. If you're sitting down at a desk as well and you put your feet up on the table, that is a power pose. And guess what? Whenever you have any calls, apply these power poses. Use those power poses while on your call. Why? Because that confidence that's linked to your body will actually show up in your tone of voice as well. And remember, 38% of your communication is your tone of voice. And as a leader, communication is key. So those are the high power poses. Basically, high power poses are all about expanding yourself and taking up your space. Now, if you're standing and you're talking with people, this is really important. One of the high power poses you can do that many leaders do actually. So they stand, feet, once again, shoulders width apart. And the reason why you keep your feet a bit wider is because then you're more grounded, you're like rooted. It's harder for people to push you, right? So when you're standing, look at your posture. If someone were to push you slightly, would you topple? If yes, that's a low power pose. If someone were to push you and you'd remain firm, then that is a high power pose. So make sure you have a pose that is firm and that is rooted and grounded. Very important. And so that's the biggest important when it comes to your hand while standing. One of the things you could do is you could put your hand behind your back, both hands, and like one hand holding on like this, but not high up, just like this. And that you'll see there's quite a few photos of world leaders with that pose. And basically what that pose does is it forces your shoulders back, your chest, and it exposes the entire front of your body. So what it's saying and signifying is, I'm so confident, I'm so assured of myself, and I'm such a leader, and I know and I trust my authority so fully that I'm willing to allow myself to be vulnerable because I'm not afraid. That's what that's saying. So those are some high power poses that you can assume and use in your daily conversations when you're out there presenting yourself and your business. Subtle, small signs. And each time you're assuming these poses, the people who are observing you, they see it. And whether they're consciously aware of what you're doing or not, their subconscious mind is reading those signals and has been trained. Our subconscious mind has already been trained to read those signals. And so they'll see those signals and boom, something in them will say, this person has authority, this person's a leader, I need to pay attention to this person. And then, by the way, real quick, low power poses before I go into the rest. Low power poses are basically poses that cause you to constrict, to take up less space. So shoulders hunched, neck down, that's a low power pose. By the way, you guys, most of us, when we're using our phones, we're in a low power pose. Assuming a low power pose for 2 to 3 minutes or longer actually causes your brain to produce cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And then you're emitting stress hormones. And by the way, just real quick, our brain is receiving 400 million bits of information per second. And our conscious brain can only process 2,000 bits per second, which is 1 in 2 million. When you're under stress, it processes even less, a fraction of that. Low power poses cause you to produce cortisol, to get stressed out. It stresses out your brain. It physically and literally stresses out your brain, which then limits your ability to lead because it limits your ability to see the data, to interpret data, to think creatively, to make decisions. So low power poses, very important for you to know them and to avoid them. So basically, shoulders hunched, maybe hands like this, touching your neck. Those are all low power poses. Or, taking up as little space on a chair as possible. Very, very low power poses. One of the things, like I mentioned to you guys, the first thing I did whenever I would enter boardrooms is I would observe how the executives are acting. I would observe their body language, their posture, everything, and I would mimic them. Why? Because I wanted what I knew, whatever they had working was obviously working. And so I wanted to mimic them. And it was only afterwards, after I started researching, well, why does this work? Why is this? Why this? All the research and the study behind it. That's when I realized, oh my goodness, this stuff is not being taught in leadership training. And if you want, this is the subtle art of leadership, and you are receiving it. Leadership, the vital fuel about leadership is your communication skills. And your communication skills, 55% of your communication is your body language. So if you learn to master your body language, then guess what? You've mastered 55% of communication. Your body language affects your tone of voice as well, which is 38% of your communication. And altogether, that is 93% of your communication. How would you like? Just a simple thing as remembering how to stand will help you improve your 93% of your communication. Small little life hacks, small little biohacks, and just little leadership hacks that then other people will see you apply, and they will, without even realizing it, they'll start recognizing you as a leader and seeing you more as a leader. All right, so now, all these things, the physical aspect, very, very important. But why do these work? And if you want to really supercharge it and become an even more influential and more confident leader, it's all in the brain, your brain. So our brains, you guys, we have our conscious mind, we have our subconscious, and we have our unconscious mind, right? So your conscious mind is everything that you see, hear, taste, touch, smell, feel, the 5 senses. Your subconscious and your unconscious is a storage of all of that. So, for example, if you're a computer, your conscious mind is the program that you're actually working on. Your subconscious would be all the other programs that you have running in the background. And your unconscious mind is the data house, the warehouse of all that data. So your subconscious mind is you can very easily access that information. In your unconscious mind, it's a bit harder to access that information because you need something like a traumatic event or some big emotional thing to trigger to access that information. However, remember how I told you guys that we have 400 million bits of information per second coming at us? Your conscious mind can only process 2,000 bits per second. The rest of it is stored in your subconscious and in your unconscious mind. It is just stored there. And your subconscious, I'll just say subconscious for, keep it shorter. Your subconscious mind doesn't know right from wrong. It's whatever you most feed it, that is what it will believe it's true. It's pure data, absolute pure data. So, what are you feeding your subconscious mind? Very important, because remember, you guys, when you're speaking, when you're talking, so many people are so focused on the words that they say that they don't pay attention to their tone or to their body language. So what happens? Remember, your body language and your tone of voice are 93% of your communication. So if you're not paying attention to that, guess what happens? Your subconscious takes over. Your default pattern takes over. And if your subconscious mind, if you've been trained that you are not a good leader, that you are not a good communicator, that you won't succeed in business, that you suck at business, that people won't buy from you, guess what? That is what will show up when you communicate. You can have the most powerful words, but if your tone of language and if your body language is off because you don't believe yourself, then guess what? It's ineffective. What would happen if I came to you guys and said, you guys, I know how to make you better leaders, and if you follow these steps, you are going to be much more effective communicators and leaders. And look, guys, just trust me, this is really good. You wouldn't believe me. But if I say, look, you guys, these are the proven steps. If you incorporate these things, you will be a much more effective communicator and a much more effective leader because you can move people onto your platform. Look at that difference. The difference that believing in yourself and having the right body language and the right tone of voice can have on the message that you deliver. That, you guys, is the subtle art of leadership, the subtle art of influence, stuff that is not talked about in leadership training, yet is so vital because you are the leader of your business. You lead, and the leadership of a business can make or break the business. That's what makes people go from good to great, from companies to go from good to great. So if you want to be a great company, start by being a great leader. And great leaders need to communicate the vision. Great leaders need to project authority. They need to project confidence and just this assuredness in themselves. The best way to do that, if you want to 80-20 it, focus on the most important, vital few components, is you focus on your body language, your tone of voice, and that all is influenced by your subconscious mind. So identify the stories in your head that tell you that you're not a good leader. If you have those stories, identify any of those negative thought processes, any of those negative stories, remove them, and instead replace them with stories that serve you. And then step up as a bold, courageous, and confident leader. And then you'll see the difference and the impact that has on your business. I know I have seen it in mine as well. Now, you guys, I also put together a freebie for you. It is the top 9 leadership books. I'm a voracious leader. Leader. I'm a voracious reader. And I went through and I selected the top 9 books, my top favorite 9 books that apply to leadership. Some of them aren't traditional leadership books, as you will see. Go ahead and download it at the link. You'll see it there, and you'll see their books. So each page, for each book, I have a page of summary, key takeaways that you can go look, see if you like the book. If you like the book, I definitely purchase it and buy it and read more information. But at least you can glean what I think and what others believe are some very important key takeaways from those 9 books, and save yourself hours of reading time. You guys, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Keep in touch with me, by the way. Go ahead and find me and let me know how you have applied these tips, these techniques, and what impact that has had on you and on your business. And enjoy the rest of the summit. There are great, amazing speakers here. Make sure, by the way, one thing I'd highly recommend and invite you guys to do is for every speaker, for every video, identify one key takeaway and start applying that key takeaway in your life. And guess what? That is when you'll see your business will really up level. It's one thing to have knowledge. It's another thing to apply it. And when you apply it, so people say knowledge is power. Knowledge is potential power. When you take action and apply it, that is when you have power. So I encourage you guys, go ahead, soak up all this knowledge, apply it, and then you will see the powerful results it has in your business. It's been an honor serving you. Have a great day. Remember to smile, laugh, and love.